And to paraphrase, at the end of the show, you said like, what would you add to the price of tomorrow? If you could redo the book again, and you said something along the lines of, I'd love to add something about how you have agency in the world, and that, people could realize that the jail cell door is open and you can just walk out and you can create the world you want to live in. And it doesn't have to be this world that's currently built on fear, coercion, and control. And we could build one on hope, truth, and abundance. And I was just like, that's a banger. And then Preston said, all right, that's a great mic drop moment. And we stopped the pod. And then I think myself and about 200,000 people just went, no, like
keep going.
Keep going. That's great. So I mean, you've probably done like 100 podcasts since then, but like, I don't know, that would be a great subject to expand on. Like, how do we build this world built on hope, truth, and abundance? And like, what does that mean to you?
So this is depending on where you're starting from. A lot of Bitcoiners are probably already here, but I wrote something on Nostr recently that said, essentially, you find Bitcoin from either from a higher consciousness that this just makes sense, and then you explore it, right? A different consciousness than the existing system, or you're in Bitcoin for long enough that you expand your consciousness and you can see what I just said is true, right? And every single person, including me, is on a journey somewhere along there, and that journey comes from so the world, the perceived reality of the world is from us, right? If you take, let's just use a couple of examples to make it real. If you're in Palestine right now, your reality is much different than Pete or Andy, your reality, right? Yeah. Both of your realities are different than my reality. A victim walking down the street who believes that everything conspires in the world against that person. That person's reality is different again from my reality. Each of our kind of fragments of reality is true for us, and it comes from mind, right? So all of this everything comes from consciousness and mind, and our physical manifestation of reality comes from our belief inside that bubble, and it projects back at us. It just reflects back at us, and we so defend that reality. And just imagine a filter bubble of that's your reality, right? And outside that filter bubble is an unknown, but it's scary and it's constantly unknown. And so inside your reality, I'm not saying it's not true. It is true for every one of us, right? According to our perceptions of truth. Of what that looks like. I know we're jumping way into a deep end here because we have, because we have to if we're describing something that is outside of most people's objective reality, right? We have to. We are it, right? When I say the natural state of the free market is deflation, everybody naturally, and what Andy's doing right now, nods his head. But everybody does that. I mean, everybody. And they do that because when you hear a truth that is so profound and true, you feel the truth, right? And so even if you can't wrap your head around it, your body reacts to it. You feel it, right? And so, but then we say that and we go back and living and experiencing from a perceived. So that's an objective reality. That is true for sure. But then we go back into this other system, and we measure from what isn't true, what isn't a perceived a system that's been built around a different structure. So from that system, if we're measuring from that system, it would be really hard to stay in the energy around the objective truth. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So here's maybe a different way. Let's go into this a whole bunch of different ways,
okay.
Right? And so one way into this is everything in your room right now, this Zoom, this everything in your life, the mathematics that runs your perception of the universe, all comes from mind.
Mm.
Everything that's in your room had to come from somebody saying, I want to create this, right?
Yeah.
And it had to be formed into a physical manifestation of mind. Fair?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everything.
Yes.
Right? Everything you experience is from a unconscious first idea, that somehow that idea competed against another idea to create something of value to you that then you bought. So if everything comes from mind and then moves into a physical reality, right, that we experience, and we tend to think that in any epoch in history that we know about 98% of everything we need to know.
Yeah.
Right.
We always do.
We always do. We're
a smug
insanely,
lot.
yeah, insanely smug, right? Insanely smug that we know it all. Those other people didn't know it all, but now we know it all, right? And that repeats through time, right? And that repeating through time is also what gives entrepreneurs or people, visionaries, or people who see something different, tying into something, an advantage to create something that is unknown by the mass majority of people, that creates value for them, that creates a new reality for those people. If you just take it into small examples, right, in the free market, research in motion, BlackBerry, right? I was convinced, even though I'm kind of a visionary on the spectrum on a visionary, I was convinced I would never use an Apple product because it was a cute toy and I wanted the buttons. The buttons on my phone were so important to me. And so you had somebody building something totally different against my belief for years, secret project. And when it came out, my mind changed immediately, right? Yeah. And if you had asked me if I'd changed before, no chance, right? Something emerges that we didn't know, and we change, and all of a sudden it's normal, right? When I talked about Michael Faraday in Madeira in my speech, Michael Faraday understanding electromagnetism from an idea that was all around us for thousands of years, but nobody had seen, right? And then James Clerk Maxwell taking the equations for electromagnetism that runs all of our satellite communications, electricity, everything today perfectly, from an idea that for thousands of years nobody had that idea, changes our reality, right? It all comes from us, right? So I know. So now, if you follow that through, if that all comes from us, and the natural state of the free market is deflation, and that also comes from us, which is a natural evolution of us. What would it look like to those that their reality, if you came into their physical reality, which also creates their beliefs, that physical reality was a manifestation of a broken trade between us that reinforced on itself. Right. So their physical reality. So if you had broken money and their physical reality was through that broken money, right. And all money was an abstract concept for the trade between humans. And you broke that abstract concept, then all of the physical reality that most people experience would be through that lens, and it would reinforce back at them, right? And inside that consciousness, it would be really easy to hate other people, right? It would be really easy to divide other people. It would be really easy to look inside that box, let's say that filter bubble, and believe that there was a way to fix it from within that filter bubble. Because you would want to believe, it's easier to believe it's somebody else rather than you.
Yeah. It's always somebody else doing it to you.
It's way easier. And there would be a whole bunch of people within that filter bubble that would feed back to you because of the other guy, right? The other person, that you're right. And that would feel inside that filter bubble. It would feel like you belonged. right?
Yeah.
It would feel like you mattered because you were doing something so much more important than those other people, but it would divide you more and more and more because nothing could resolve that conflict from within that filter bubble.
Mm.
But all of us would be in that filter bubble. And then you have this new thing that's outside, right? That's
Mm.
truly outside. That if you take agency in, that you know by taking agency and running a node and contributing to the decentralization and security by starting your payments in there, not you think, you're taking an active participation
Mm.
in something that is imposing a new objective reality on a whole bunch of people stuck in this filter bubble.
Yep.
Right. So that's what I mean by, and I know we went all over the map there, but that's what I mean in we literally all have that agency in what you and but it's easy to believe we don't. It's easy for if you just I know when I'm talking like this, a whole bunch of people are going to be listening and saying and doing something along the lines of this. Yeah, I know. Me and Jeff are doing this. Me, Pete, Dandy, and Jeff are doing this, but those other people, right?
Yeah.
And so the only way to actually tell is how often are you saying those other people?
Mm.
Right? How often are you blaming anybody else rather than just moving your time and energy into a new system that you're contributing to make stronger? And how much time and I do this all the time, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, but it's helped me learn to how much time is the existing system trying to pull you back into it, and how much time are you listening? How much time are you actually watching Twitter or the news or that, which is taking away from your energy in the new system? Because it has to.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're really honest with your time, you can know this is all here, but it doesn't have to affect your emotions. You have a choice, right? Every single one of us has a choice to an event happens, and it's our perception of the event that drives our emotion.
Mm.
Right? What does it mean for us? And so you could tune this out. You can tune out. I'm not saying there's not going to be bad events and craziness and way more things that are going to happen to try to drag you back in. But you have the choice.
Mm.
You have agency. We all have agency.
Yeah, I think it's talked about a lot in meditation, right? Where it's you can add that pause when something happens. You can take the pause, and then you can choose how to react. And in that pause, you can realize that, like, oh, I don't have to react to this thing yet because I'm in my pause. And then you start to realize, well, what if that pause was like 2 minutes? And then that's achievable. And it's like, well, if it could be 2 minutes, like, why couldn't it be 21 minutes? And why couldn't it be 21 years? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, hang on a minute. Maybe this never had to just affect me. Maybe I was just reacting to this thing. It's interesting. But,
yeah, but that's exactly it, Pete. It's the event. What drives our emotion is what the event says about us, right? Our perception of the event. Someone cuts us off in traffic, and that person must be an asshole. Instead of that person as a kid who just broke his arm and is racing to the hospital, right?
Yeah.
So we make up a story, and that story is true for us, and that story repeats. And why we can't see it so just a story, is it's all in our mind, and it's repeating back at us. And then we see this everywhere. Like, you see people fighting the world everywhere. And I'm not saying that that's bad for them. If that makes them truly happy, and that's what then go ahead and do it, right? But that is just like my own perceived reality or my own objective reality is true for me. It works for me, right? I'm not saying what anybody should or shouldn't do. I'm just saying that for me, I tend to get far more done. I tend to be far happier in my life I
Mm.
seem to, it reflects back at me everywhere when I'm in a higher energy state, instead of coming down to something that I can't change those things from that system and those people anyways, right?
Yep.
I just now need to let them be them and find this on their own. I tend to things tend to reflect back to me in a better picture for me.
Mm.